Good evening. I'm Jesse Milan, President and CEO of AIDS United, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our Toast to 10 Years, our celebration for the 10th anniversary of AIDS United. We chose World AIDS Day for this event to both commemorate our collective 40-year fight against HIV and to celebrate AIDS United's achievements and our role in that fight since its creation 10 years ago. It's fitting that tonight we do both. We remember those we've lost to AIDS and all those who have advocated and worked for HIV prevention, treatment, care, support, and research over the years. And we recall tonight the roles played by AIDS United's predecessor organizations, the National AIDS Fund and the AIDS Action Council. And we recognize their vision for joining together 10 years ago to create AIDS United. And we recommit today to the mission of AIDS United to end the HIV epidemic in the United States so that no new transmissions of HIV occur, no new illness and deaths from AIDS occur, and all stigma and discrimination stop. But we still have a long way to go. 35,000 new HIV transmissions still occurring in this country. Barely half of the 1.2 million people like me living in the US with HIV are achieving viral suppression. Nearly 15% of us still don't know our status, and nearly 40% of us are not able to consistently receive healthcare and support. And another 1.2 million of us are highly vulnerable to acquiring HIV. Those millions in the US and the millions more who love us and are connected to us all look to AIDS United to help end this epidemic. And over the years, we've granted over $1.2 million to organizations in virtually every state and territory to help them with their work. Our Public Policy Council is today made up of 57 of the leading HIV service and advocacy organizations in this country. And our capacity building work is supporting community-based organizations and health departments in their local efforts to end this epidemic. And tonight you'll hear from our team about the work AIDS United is doing today to help achieve our common mission of ending the HIV epidemic in the United States. And tonight, we'll honor a few who have been especially strong in supporting our mission, a national icon, and 10 leaders who have worked inside or alongside AIDS United in the fight against HIV in America. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and our 10 honorees deserve AIDS United's Appreciation Award and oh, so much more. But so do all of you who are joining us tonight for your support of AIDS United in its mission and its work. You honor us with your support. And thanks go to all who have been part of the AIDS United family over the years, our staff, both past and present, including our past CEOs, Michael Kaplan, Mark Ishog, and Candy Faree. Thanks to all our funders and donors, our grantees and partners, and to all who have served on our board of trustees and as members of our Public Policy Council. We thank and honor all of you tonight as well. And we send thanks to our 10th anniversary supporters, the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, the Global Healthy Living Foundation, the Space Tech and Research Foundation, Prism Health, and the Adzio firm. Thanks to our wine sommelier, Ferdinando Mercerino. He's been named Best Wine Director by Wine Enthusiast magazine. We are thrilled to have his expertise tonight. And Jill Giacomini Bosch, our cheese expert and the CEO of Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company. Point Reyes is a woman-owned business and has their very own dairy farm and creamery. And you're going to be sampling their wares tonight. I know I can hardly wait to taste and to toast tonight. And special thanks to our anniversary chair and Friends United member, Mr. Joel Goldman, and to our planning team of Rock Schuler and Warren Gill, Carl Bologna, Lucy Cook, and Dennis Chiba. But Super special thanks to tonight's celebrity hosts, actor Danny Francesi and singer Kimberly Locke. Danny is well known for bringing passion and truth to his role as a person living with HIV on HBO's hit show Looking. And before that, he gained praise for his role as Damien on Tina Fey's hit Mean Girls. Danny is a true HIV advocate, having partnered with AIDS United at AIDS Watch as an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. We're so glad, Danny, you're here. And Kimberly Locke. She's a powerhouse singer and a former finalist on American Idol Season 2. And she now hosts her own TV talk show, Doctor and the Diva. But Kimberly's been a long-time advocate for HIV awareness, especially in the African American community. We're so glad she's lending her voice to celebrate AIDS United tonight. Thank you, Kimberly, for being with us. So let's get started honoring and toasting and tasting. Danny and Kimberly, take it away.
Thank you, Jesse. Buonasera, everybody. Good evening. I am Daniel Francesi.
And I'm Kimberly Locke, and we're your co-hosts for tonight's 10th anniversary celebration. We're both so very excited to be here with you. We'd like to start by thanking each of you for donating, for buying cheese, for buying wine. It all makes a difference. Your support of AIDS United sustains the sort of programs we're going to be talking about tonight. From everyone at AIDS United, thank you.
Yes, and thanks also to our generous partners, Wine Insiders and Point Reyes and Farmstead Cheese Company, delicious, who are donating all the proceeds from the wine and cheese sales to AIDS United, and that is for a good cause.
That's right. I love that, Daniel. A good cause. I love it. And if you haven't already ordered your wine and cheese, you can still do that. There is a link just below the video here in the video window, so just click on that.
And anything that you buy between now and December 31st will support AIDS United. Wine and cheese make a great gift for the holidays, so thank you again for your continued support of AIDS United.
So, Daniel, I have to say, it's been so long since I've seen your amazing face, and I miss you. What's going on with you? What's up?
Well, there's so much going on. I'm still, starting to pick up the tour again, doing some stand-up around the country, and I still have my podcast, Yash Jesus, just trying to do a whole bunch of great things, put some good out into the world. How about you, Kimberly?
You know what? 'Tis the season. It's the holidays, Queen of Christmas. I just put out my second holiday album called Christmas is Here, and I'm super excited. So funny enough, I've been talking about Christmas since July. So I'm like on Christmas overload. I've already started playing Christmas music. I put it on the car the other night. My fiance looked at me and he said, "It is not even Thanksgiving yet." I was like, "I'm so sorry." So that's what's going on in my world.
Well, here come the bells. I'm ready for it, Kimberly. Let's do it. Kimberly, as I'm sure you know, AIDS United's mission is to end the HIV epidemic in the United States. And I know that we've both done a lot of work around the HIV epidemic, but what draws you to this work?
Daniel, there was a time when I really didn't pay very much attention to HIV. And it's so funny. One of the very first experiences I had was before I was on American Idol at the age of 15. One of my best friends at the time, her aunt was really sick and nobody wanted to say that it was HIV. And she confided in me, and I actually went to see her aunt when, she was in her final days. And that was really kind of my first experience, personal experience with HIV. After I was on Idol, I was asked to perform at a concert for children living with HIV. It really opened my eyes, and I say it every time that those kids, they really changed my life. And from that experience forward, I felt like I needed to lend my voice so that I could help other people, learn more about, what is HIV and what is happening to people who are experiencing living with a family member that has HIV. HIV doesn't discriminate. And the reality is, we all engage in some behaviors that put us at some risk for contracting the virus. And while there are some great medicines out there that can help people prevent HIV and live very long and healthy lives, we have a lot of work still left to do. And we've done a lot of work. So, don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of work to do, and there's still so much stigma. This conversation is what is needed, and it needs to continue. And that's what this is all about tonight. So, what about you, Daniel?
Oh, well, Kimberly, as a gay man, HIV's long been part of my story, but several years ago, I was playing the role of Eddie on HBO's TV show Looking. And Eddie was an activist who was living with HIV, and it was the first character with HIV on television within 6 years. And the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation was working with GLAAD at the time, and they were looking for a celebrity spokesperson. And as part of that, I did media training, and I learned so many things, so many things that I felt as an educated gay man, I should have already have known. And I thought that if I was a knowledgeable and healthy sexual person, that if I don't know this stuff, then there's a lot of other people out there who don't know it too. So I've attended AIDS Watch 5 times now in Washington, D.C., and I've seen the needle move. I've seen members of Congress realize that this epidemic is not over, and I'm committed to working until we eradicate HIV. So that's what we're here for. Kimberly, it's so awesome to have you as a partner in that mission.
Yeah.
And
Daniel, Daniel, it's amazing. I've actually been following you, and we met doing this work through our dear friend Joel Goldman, which we can talk about the many stories and how many organizations he's connected us both with. But for me, I have been able to work with several great organizations, and your work that you've done is really truly amazing. So we're going to hear a little bit more about AIDS Watch later tonight, but before we do, we have some awards to give out. The first group of
more cheese to eat, and more cheese to eat.
And more cheese to eat. The first group of awardees are people working in the federal government to end the HIV pandemic. Here's Jesse with our first awardee.
Antigone Dempsey has been leading for this epidemic since she was barely 20. Today, she is the director of the Division of Policy and Data for the HIV/AIDS Bureau at HRSA for the entire Ryan White program. That's the entire Ryan White program. We are hugely proud of her, and we rely on her because Antigone is quite likely the highest ranking woman living openly with HIV in the entire federal government. Over her career, she has brought her lived experience to every single role she's ever had. And that includes serving as chair of the CDC and HRSA HIV, STD, and TB Prevention, Treatment, and Care Committee, in her work as the executive director of the CARE Foundation, and for her work across so many federal agencies leading programs and projects for them, including for the World Health Organization. I've known Antigone a long time, and I can tell you, Antigone exemplifies what HIV leadership is all about. And tonight, we thank her with our AIDS United Appreciation Award.
I just want to start with thanking AIDS United and in particular Jesse Mylan for honoring me. It's actually truly an honor and was very unexpected. 31 years ago when I was diagnosed with HIV, I was very alone and I felt so afraid. And really what drives me today is making sure that nobody else has to feel alone or afraid, and helping to put systems in places and policies in place that support people with HIV in their hardest and darkest places. Because for me, I was able to grow from that place with the support of many people around me, my family, people in my community who had created services for people with HIV before we even really knew what those services should look like. I was able to access those to be able to reach through that pain and that fear and the stigma and be able to do the work that I'm doing today. So that's always what's driven me, and I just feel so grateful to be able to do that and play a small part in helping to help other people who are living with HIV. So thank you again. It's truly an honor, and thanks.
Janet Cleveland is a name that many of us who work in the alphabet soup of the federal government know and know well, but the entire HIV community does not know her. Janet is the Deputy Division Director for the Division of HIV Prevention at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And she's been doing this work at the CDC as a Black woman committed to HIV for a very, very long time. Oh, you need to know Janet Cleveland. Someone said that to me from the Surgeon General's office, and they said that to me 25 years ago. And boy, am I glad I did get to know Janet. So much of the CDC's HIV prevention work has been either guided or influenced by Janet. Communications, capacity building, partnerships, grant reviews, research, epidemiology, and partners. And the policy list goes on and on and on, and the years go on and on as well. But whenever Janet stands at a podium or sits in a room at a meeting, we know that the powerful commitment of a federal leader is in the room. And we listen and we learn and we all benefit from Janet. And now all of you know why AIDS United is so proud tonight to present Janet Cleveland, with our HIV/AIDS Appreciation Award.
Hi, good evening. This is Janet Cleveland with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I am so excited to be here with you, even though it's virtually. But I'm so excited to be here with all of you to congratulate the AIDS United organization on their 10th anniversary. What a major milestone. The work that they have done has been absolutely incredible. And I am so glad to have had the privilege of being able to work with them in terms of many of the activities and strategies and programs that they have undertaken in terms of trying to make this world a better place in terms of HIV prevention. So here I am, and wow, I can't believe I'm at a place where there's actually an organization that is, recognizing the work that I have done for like literally the last 30 years. I would say that I have not done that work without humble gratitude. And I say that to AIDS United. Thank you so much for just honoring that because I tell you, when I first started in this work, when we didn't have as many tools in our toolbox as we do now in terms of prevention, it was a much different world. But I was always so committed to trying to make a difference for people of color, for LGBTQ communities, for other communities that were disenfranchised and who were underserved. Um, this has been important work. This has been important work. And so, what I am so, so, so committed to is that now it is time for new leaders. And that's what many of you are. And I'm so thrilled about that because we need new leaders. But I hope that for the leaders who have come before you, that there have been some lessons learned and that you can take some of those lessons and you can move forward in terms of whatever that means, in terms of making a different space, a different just opportunity in terms of how we get to where we now know we can end the HIV epidemic. We can do it. We do have those tools in our prevention box now. And so I thank you. I thank Age United. I thank Jesse, my longtime friend and colleague. And what I would say to all of you is that we can do this. We can end this epidemic. We can do it. We can do it. So let's keep moving forward. And thank you all so much. And again, I received this honor with humble gratitude. Love you all. Bye bye.
Congratulations, Antigone and Janet. Thank you for all of the work that you've been doing. Next up is our first wine and cheese tasting. Well, maybe you're first. I've been snacking a little bit earlier than everybody else. But thanks again to Wine Insiders and to Point Reyes for their support tonight. Ferdy and Jill, take it away.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. Thanks, Jesse, for inviting us. And let's get going. I hope that everyone has prepared their cheese boards. You know, I kind of went a little bit overboard, pardon the pun, but we are tasting Point Reyes Toma, Point Reyes Toma Truffle, our Toma Rashi, our traditional Gouda, and our original blue. And I'll get into the details as we go from pairing to pairing. Ferdy, you want to tell them what we're drinking tonight?
Because with the wines, we're going all over the world. We're going from South Africa with the first wine, which is going to be a Chenin Blanc. Then from there, we're going to travel to Italy with a beautiful Chianti. Then from Italy, we'll switch to France with a red Bordeaux. And then we're going to end up with Bubbles, the most festive of all wines, which is going to be a Cava from Spain. So we're covering the entire hemisphere. We have cheeses from California and then beautiful wines from all over the world. We're talking about the power couple of the culinary world, wine and cheese. They've been together for thousands of years, so nothing can be more exciting. So should we start?
Absolutely.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about these beautiful South African whites, which is one of my favorites from Wine Insiders. This is the Radford Dale Venom Chenin Blanc. What this grape is the most popular grape in South Africa, the most widely planted, Chenin Blanc. So I love Chenin Blanc with cheese, especially when it's made this way. So let me tell you why. We all know that the grapes have certain acids to them. And one of these acid is called tartric acid, which is the fruity, citrusy kind of acid. And another one is called malic acid. And malic acid is an appley kind of flavor. Once you convert the juice into wine, another fermentation starts, and that's called malolactic. That converts the malic acid, the appley kind of flavored acid, into lactic acid, which, surprise, surprise, is the same acid that you have in cheese. So if you smell the cheese, it smells buttery, cheesy, right? You're very familiar with that smell because you've been smelling cheeses all your life. Then you smell a wine like this, which went through full malolactic. Wow, it smells kind of the same. It smells cheesy. So for me, when I do a pairing, the first thing that I look for is, are the aromas matching or complementary? So I have the Toma, which is a beautiful, almost, I would say, a cheese that showcases the greatness of the product, like the greatness of the milk that they use at Point Reyes, because it's very simple, but very flavorful. It's herbaceous, there's a little tanginess to it, it's buttery. And then we're pairing it also with this one, which is infused with truffles. And Jill is gonna tell you all about the cheeses. I'm going to tell you just why I think the pairing works, because the flavors are very complementary. The wine, as you taste it, has a lot of acid, which is gonna help you cut through the fattiness and the richness of the cheese. And then, you know, because the flavors are so complementary, you can go from one to another, and they're almost going to attract each other. You eat the first bite of cheese, and then you want some wine. And then after wine, you're gonna want some more cheese because you want to make this magic happen. So Jill, what can you tell us about these cheeses?
Okay, well, so you kind of stole my thunder there, Ferdy. Buttery notes, abound between, I taste it in the wine and I taste it in the cheese. And the finish is a little bit of an herbaceousness, and it kind of represents as that acidic, quality that you were describing there. But together, you've got this very rounded tasting between the cheese and going back and forth from the wine and back and forth back to the cheese. So Toma is our village cheese, as we call it in Point Reyes. It's a cheese that represents the flavors of our farm. And it's a cheese that, you know, if we had our wishes, you know, everyone in the community would buy it by the 10-pound wheel. They would store it, you know, at home, and they would use it breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's a great melting cheese. It's a great snacking cheese. It's fabulous with wines. It's great melted into eggs and paninis and mac and cheese. It's just this, you know, multi-purpose, as we say, anytime, any table with Toma. We made the cheese in the style of a very traditional young Gouda or Havarti, but the inspiration was pure Italy. We wanted to kind of represent this type of local cheese that everyone in the community gets behind. We were asked very quickly to create some flavored versions, and so kind of again going off of that Italian inspiration, we decided to create a version with truffles. And so we went to the Sabatino family in Umbria, and they helped us kind of craft the perfect blend using a truffle pate that they send to us for our cheese making. And I think that what our cheesemaker has done a beautiful job of is actually using restraint, so that the truffle flavor just slightly builds with every bite. You're not hit, you know, in the front of your palate as soon as you take a whiff or you take your initial bite with just an overwhelming sense of truffle. Instead, it just kind of gently builds. So I love with this wine, starting with the classic Toma, to kind of get the flavor, that roundedness I was describing between the butter notes and the cheese, and then the nice acidity back of the wine, but with that herbaceous kind of grassiness kind of at play there in both components, and then graduate over to the truffled version of the cheese, and then you get a much more kind of full flavored and kind of umami rich taste bomb on your palate.
Another thing I love about this pairing, that I was just, as you're talking, I'm doing the hard work of smelling and tasting the wine and the cheeses. As I'm smelling it, I know that it is a kind of like a yeasty quality to it, because this one spends a lot of time on its own yeast, which is a byproduct of the fermentation, like the combination of crushed skins and grape seeds, and that gives wine almost like what champagne has, which is that butteriness, briocheiness, toasted.
I was just going to say brioche
kind of
bread,
flavor.
completely, our hot buttered toast. You know,
So
or even buttered popcorn together between the two.
Perfect. It's almost like liquid bread next to this beautiful buttery cheese. I love this pairing.
Absolutely. I do too. I think it's just beautiful. And it's a great way to start the event tonight.
Oh my goodness, that sounds so good. Wine and cheese. You're talking my language. This is what I do. Like, you know, I got a little glass here with me. Danny's into the cheese. I actually love cheese too, Danny. So I can't wait to have some cheese as well with my wine. I actually just ordered my wine and cheese, and I can't wait to try it all. Tonight, while you're enjoying your wine, we want to tell you about some of AIDS United's current initiatives. First up, the AIDS United team is going to tell you about the ways they're helping frontline organizations in the HIV epidemic through capacity building, testing, and implementing innovative structural interventions, various trainings, and by providing technical assistance.
Capacity building is really a set of tools. So under the umbrella of capacity building is providing technical assistance to folks to be able to strengthen their implementation and strategies to produce better outcomes for the people that they serve. And those can be through webinars, tool development, specific evidence-based interventions.
Whether you are engaging with the organization through our policy side, through our grant making side, or directly with our capacity building team, the work that we do, the energy that we put towards the work and the passion that we have is around MIPA, meaningful involvement of community people living with HIV, and then also to ensure that we're doing so in a way that's grounded in cultural humility and meeting people where they are in a way that allows for us to really get at the root of how we could best be of service.
For the past 4 years, we've worked on an initiative called Using Evidence-Informed Interventions to Improve the Health Outcomes for People Living with HIV. And this is kind of 2.0. The focus is on emerging practices. So we're taking what we learned and applying it to new ideas in the field. The focus of the initiative is really to listen to communities on the ground who are doing this work every day, hearing about best practices, things that they've tried that are working for them, and sharing them with other communities and finding ways to tailor them and to bring success. Right now, we're putting together a repository of possible interventions, and in about a month, we'll convene an expert panel who will then narrow that list down to about 10 interventions that we'll work with over the next 4 years.
People living with HIV say, for us, by us. They're like, you can't make decisions about us if you don't ensure that we who are people living with HIV have a voice. Black Women's First Initiative is the first federally funded initiative truly focused on understanding the impact of HIV with Black women. Working with Black women is so crucial because they are disproportionately impacted by HIV. We are truly hoping that this initiative is going to tell us some of the struggles that they have in maintaining engagement in HIV primary care or in getting to viral suppression, and that there is a greater understanding of all of these issues and how they might impact a woman coming into care so that she truly is at her best and committed to staying in care.
The Midwest is described as different compilations of states depending on who's having the conversation. For CDC's purposes, Midwest is really as far west as the Dakotas, as far east as Ohio, and as far south as Kansas and Missouri. That is not a traditional space that AIDS United has been engaged in the work.
We have been poised to do this work in the Midwest simply because of our history and our expertise. But one recruitment and engagement mechanism for one population does not look the same for another population. So we had to create a host of strategies for recruitment and engagement. Some of the current things we have in development really do cross the boundaries of what's imagined. The hope is that this work won't be the work forever. Hopefully we will reach the aim of the mission.
Bobby Hilliard has been serving as the chair of AIDS United's Board of Trustees for 7 years, but he is leaving that role and our board at the end of this year as he takes on his new role as CEO of Legacy Community Health in Houston. Dr. Hilliard, who we all know as Bobby, is a Black gay man, and when any of us at AIDS United say his name, Bobby, we know something important is about to happen. Bobby's tenure at AIDS United has included him navigating the search for a new CEO, and he's helped guide us through strategic planning, through transitions, and growth. He's been a mentor and a confidant, a leader of process, an advisor, a donor, and our rock. That's what a great board chair is, and that's what Bobby Hilliard is. Bobby, AIDS United thanks and honors you for your exemplary service with our AIDS United Appreciation Award.
For the past 10 years, AIDS United has been committed to fighting the HIV/AIDS epidemic and serving as a source of support for thousands of people who found themselves in what they believed to be a hopeless situation. Despite the many obstacles faced, you have stood strong and courageously developed a roadmap for federal action to end the HIV epidemic in this country by 2025. As chairman of the Board of Trustees, I've had the privilege of being a small part of that mission. What I've loved most about being part of AIDS United is seeing the many different ways that AIDS United has worked with the federal government, funders, and communities to achieve their goal. I recently accepted the role of Chief Executive Officer at Legacy Community Health, one of the largest federally qualified health centers in the United States. Legacy's 40-year history began in the early 80s in Houston, Texas, caring for those living with HIV/AIDS. That work continues today, and I look forward to Legacy and AIDS United continuing its very strong partnership. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for this prestigious award. I accept this honor on behalf of all those who dedicated their lives to caring for those living with HIV/AIDS and to those who lost their lives in the fight. I salute AIDS United for its life-changing work. Congratulations on 10 years of making a difference.
How can we be AIDS United without Katie Caldwell? Katie is retiring this year as CEO of Legacy Community Health in Houston. And after completing 3 consecutive terms on the AIDS United Board of Trustees, she must leave us at the end of this year as well. But she has been part of AIDS United since before we were AIDS United. She was a leader at our predecessor, the AIDS Action Council, where she chaired the Public Policy Committee when it was just a small group of HIV/AIDS organizations that today has grown to our Public Policy Council of 57 member agencies. Katie once told me that she came to AIDS United because of her commitment to HIV policy, but inside AIDS United, she's been a fiduciary bringing powerful financial acumen. She's been our board treasurer and the chair of our finance committee, and she's combined them both by leading the charge for AIDS United to help preserve the 340B program that brings fiscal resources to HIV services nationwide. Katie, how can we be AIDS United without you? Well, tonight we want to appreciate you with the AIDS United Appreciation Award.
I'm extremely honored to accept this prestigious award from AIDS United. I cannot thank you all enough for including me in this important celebration. I'm so proud of all the accomplishments and impact that AIDS United has had over the past 10 years. I've witnessed the monumental support that AIDS United has provided to organizations that care and advocate for people at risk for or living with HIV. The fact that so many organizations have both joined the Public Policy Council and benefited from the grant funding is a testament to the amazing work you do every single day. The respect and impact AIDS United has on Capitol Hill is unparalleled. With all sincerity, I'm humbled to receive this award. I'm so proud to have served as a board member and board chair of this organization. Every day, I think of this quote from my favorite t-shirt, which keeps me grounded in our work. All I want is a cure and all my friends back. I truly thank you for this honor and congratulations again, AIDS United, for 10 years of service.
Our trifecta of board honorees would not be complete without honoring Douglas Brooks. Many of you may remember that when Douglas became director of the White House Office of National AIDS Policy at the Obama administration, his resume included serving as chair of the board of AIDS United. And boy, were we lucky to have him. As our early board chair, he set us on the course for AIDS United's success. But as a Black man living with HIV, his policy and political skills eclipse the most seasoned person in DC, regardless of their race, gender, or orientation. Douglas has been called to higher service, not only in our government, but today to his critical role as Vice President for Black Health Equity and Community Engagement at Gilead Sciences. Our people know that Douglas leads with the voices of people living with and vulnerable to HIV ringing in his heart. And that's because it is his heart too. Douglas, our whole community appreciates you, and AIDS United is thrilled to honor you with our Appreciation Award tonight.
Thank you so much for this award, and congratulations to AIDS United on your 10th anniversary. It was a great honor to serve as the inaugural chair of AIDS United. And I remember thinking back 10 years ago that we really were attempting an experiment. I think we all can look back 10 years later and say that we have had a very successful experiment. And I greatly look forward to seeing what happens over the next decade. Thanks again and congratulations.
What an amazing set of leaders. Congratulations to each of you and thank you for all that you've done for AIDS United. Jill and Ferdy are waiting with our next set of wine and cheeses. Back to you.
We're going to Italy, so this is my home place. So mamma mia, vino italiano, right? So we have a probably the most representative of all Italian wines, which is Chianti. Like it always, when you think Italian wine, if that's not the first word that comes to mind, then I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. Chianti and Italy, they're just synonymous of each other. So first off, fun fact about Chianti. Chianti was the first wine region ever established in the world of wine. It's been called Chianti since the 1300s. So Chianti wines have been made with the same regulations for hundreds of years. So this is a place where they really know what they want their wine to taste like. And what they want the wine to taste like is food friendly. That's what they want the wine to taste like. They want this wine to be perfect for food. So nothing can make me happier to pair food and Chianti, because I know the Chianti, because it has so much acid, tart fruits, it smells like tomato leaves, it's very savory, it complements pretty much everything. But when it comes to cheeses, of course, Jill is going to tell us everything about the Tomarashi and the Gouda. The only thing that I want to say is that this wine has enough acid to cut through the fattiness of the cheese. The flavors are very complementary to the cheese. Like you have tart with a little bit of spicy, tart with a little bit of that rich, creamy butteriness of the Gouda, which, by the way, this is not a smoked Gouda. This is perfection Gouda. You don't need to add any flavors to this. You just need to have it as it is, just with the Gouda technique. And one thing that I wanted to point out, because we were saying before, this is the power couple of the culinary world. They've been together for so long. They have so much in common. Not only the acid I was mentioning before, but wine and cheese, they're both a product of fermentation, fermented grapes and fermented milk. And they're also probably the most intimidating food and beverages in the world. Like when you think wine, it's like, oh, it's one category. There's a million kind of different wines. And cheese, it's one category. There's so many different cheeses. It could be so intimidating. So what we are trying to do here, we're trying to make that bridge so that you can easily feel comfortable about talking about wine and cheeses. So without further ado, I'm going to take a sip of this Chianti, and then I'm going to have Jill talk about these cheeses. Cheers.
All right. Well, this Chianti is delicious. It's so easy drinking. It's full bodied. It's got a nice, light layer of tannins to it. And I was so excited to decide what cheese, to recommend for the pairings. And so we kind of went in two totally different directions, but kind of to your point, cheese, like wine, a lot of the artisanship comes down to the craft of the cheesemaker, him or herself, and the terroir from where the milk comes from. And so all of our milk comes from our farm in Marin County, California. We're about an hour north of San Francisco. And if you look on a map, you're going to see that the latitude is very similar to where Chianti comes from in Italy. And so when you're talking about climate affecting flavors and grass and the terroir, you're going to have a lot of similarities between our cheeses and where this wine comes from, even though we're across the continent in California. We went two totally different directions. We went to the spicier version of Toma, and that is Tomarashi, and it's got the base classic flavors of Toma. We've already talked about that, but to make the cheese unique and to add a little bit of spiciness, but not too aggressive, as well as a nutty back to it, we use Chichimi Togarashi, which is a Japanese 7 spice blend that's full of toasted hemp seeds and sesame seeds and poppy seeds, some nori, and some red chili flakes. So you've got a nice slow building heat. And so you talked about the Chianti having a slight spiciness. The Tomarashi is a perfect complement, kind of on the same level as that gentle spiciness coming from the wine. So these two, flavors on your palate, I think just mix beautifully to kind of create almost a third dimension. And it makes me want to have more and more and more. But the nice thing is the spiciness in the cheese doesn't overpower the wine. And then for a totally different experience, we went to our traditional 18-month aged Gouda or Hauda. So a totally different style of cheese. This is a hard cheese that's, still retains a lot of creaminess in the texture. It's got a lot of cooked cream and toasted hazelnuts in the flavor profile. I actually describe it typically as more like just pure butterscotch candy. And that's where I look at the structure of the wine that really is able to withstand, all of those sweet notes coming out of the cheese. This is a great pairing at the end of the night, I have to say. I could drink this wine and eat this cheese, well into the evening, and who needs dessert?
Keep sipping and eating as the AIDS United team shares about their strategic grant-making work. Like, did you know that AIDS United is one of the top 5 largest HIV philanthropic organizations in the United States? In 10 short years, AIDS United has directly funded more than $118 million to local communities and leveraged more than $184 million in additional investments. This money has gone strategically to the organizations on the ground who are most deeply connected to their communities. Here's some more about AIDS United's world-changing work.
Grant making is a really critical piece to ending the HIV epidemic because it allows community-based organizations to get funding to do the work that they do in community. There are so many knock your socks off organizations out there. We exist because they exist. We exist because we want to help them do the work they do to end HIV in the United States. And it's really an honor and a privilege to be able to support them through grant making.
People Organizing Positively is a leadership development initiative that is designed to expand the leadership capacity of people who are living with HIV into advocacy, community engagement, stigma reduction, and to ensure that communities that are working with people living with HIV are meaningfully involving them at all stages of the projects that folks are funded for. The initiative has also taken on kind of a worldwide element with the advent and usage of social media. To date, at least over 300,000 people have been engaged in some format through the different projects of the initiative. And it's been super exciting because a number of the participants that have been a part of this in the last 6 years that I've been working on the initiative have talked about how it's been an invaluable experience in helping them to find their voice and find a way to take living with HIV, a situation that they may have considered at one point to be a deficit, and turn it into their greatest strength. And conceptualization of this pilot began in 2018 when AIDS United was invited to be a part of several meetings that had Hispanic, Latinx, gay, bi, and other MSM or queer identified men to talk about how to mobilize a response to the disproportionate rates of HIV amongst that community. One of the call to action items was to provide spaces for learning and for development of people as leaders. The POP and HLPOP initiatives do work to build capacity of smaller organizations so that they gain skills in terms of sustainability and leadership development. We also help develop and connect them with public policy. Public policy isn't just something that happens in Washington. It's something that happens in their community and directly impacts the services that they need. Some of these smaller organizations that have the direst of needs, they can't even get to the table. So we need to bring the table to them.
The Syringe Access Fund is a collaborative grant-making fund that provides direct funding to syringe services programs around the country.
For the vast majority of the last 30 years, we've had a either complete or partial ban on federal funding for syringes that has no connection to public health best practice, to basic reason, to compassion, to anything that would be helpful for people to use drugs. It's still in there because of stigma and stigma alone.
AIDS United is the largest private funder of syringe services programs in the country. This fund is incredibly, incredibly critical to our HIV prevention efforts nationwide, with folks who use drugs in particular, with people who are experiencing homelessness. These programs don't exist without funding, and in some places, this is the only funding available for them.
In Puerto Rico, right now, we continue to still be among the top 10 in prevalence and incidence nationally. So this is why we are one of the 47 jurisdictions under the EHE. There's a lot of things that go into play with why and how we react the way that we do to certain medical conditions here on the island. It's medical mistrust, it's colonialism. We are people of color. And the constant natural disasters that occur. One particular success story is immediately thereafter the hurricanes Irma and Maria, with the emergency relief funds that AIDS United was able to garner. Over 18 community-based organizations that received $25,000 or more. Some had more than one round of those funds. A lot of people were impacted, and those were organizations that were island-wide. It's daunting work, but it's getting done. And it will continue to get done as long as we continue to recruit more and more community and grassroots movements into the fold with us.
The Relief, Recovery, and Resilience Fund was started in 2017 as a response to the devastation that Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria wreaked on the southern United States and Puerto Rico. And then we were able to relaunch in 2020 as a response to COVID-19. As in most of the country, in the HIV community, there was a relatively quick response of shutting things down, stopping services, having people not come in for their appointments. But as COVID went on, it became clear that organizations had to open up again to be able to work with clients, at least on some level, because their folks couldn't go weeks or months without services. So the R Fund can be broadly used to support organizations in the US that work with people who live with HIV or folks who are vulnerable to HIV. It allows organizations who are on the ground in communities to get funding that they need in a short period of time with not much work on their part, where there's been a natural or other kind of disaster, or in the situation of COVID-19, a global public health pandemic.
Positive Action for Latinx Men is a 3-year initiative, and we are in the formative portion of the first year. The goal is to use creative approaches to building community, networking, and leadership capacity of gay, bi, trans, and other queer identified men who are Hispanic Latinx. I am a queer Latino man. I was raised in a very macho, non-queer affirming environment, and collectively, Hispanic Latino people are dealing with a lot of trauma from the recent years of how we have been treated and portrayed by different people with different agendas that have been very negative and non-affirming. So to be able to come out of that shadow a little bit and then create spaces and opportunities for other folks to be welcomed in to do that feels like, familia. And it's so vital. It's so important.
In 2016, data was released that the South is still carrying the burden of new HIV incidences. However, the funding did not follow this data. So funders concerned about AIDS convened in 2017 to create what we now know as the Southern HIV Impact Fund, also known as SHIFT, and AIDS United is the administrator of that fund. The work of SHIFT is very important because it is not just addressing HIV, but we're really addressing the social injustices that encounter in the South. Racism, homophobia, transphobia. The funding that we give to organizations help expand access of healthcare. We also do general operating funds where we give the organizations the autonomy to do what they need to do, because our North Star is that they know what they need more than we know that they need.
Harm reduction is a pillar of what we need to end the epidemic, because prevention is going to miss some folks. Treatment is going to miss some folks if we're talking about drug use versus HIV.
Our job is to let other people know about the great work that other people are doing. We're messengers. We work with state and local advocates to make local legislatures understand that drug use is not a moral failing, and that people who use drugs are not problems to be dealt with. They are your constituents. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, your family.
Harm reduction provides an approach that leaves a lot of space and grace and compassion, and effectively brings folks back into touch with systems that they've been isolated from for sometimes a very long time.
When I came on board, the AIDS United team, PACT was definitely the initiative I was most excited about, because messaging and storytelling are how we change hearts and minds, and it reaches across all of the work that we do.
We have a really great opportunity because it is a cooperative agreement with the CDC. It's a true partnership. They ask us, what's working in community, what's not working. Innovation and creativity really is the key to how we do this.
We'll try anything once, and if it works, we'll come back to it. Sometimes that looks like launching a TikTok channel. Sometimes that looks like hosting an Instagram Live with a partner in the field.
HIV is no longer getting the same type of coverage that it was getting on the nightly news during the height of the AIDS pandemic. And so we need to really get this information out to communities who are most vulnerable to HIV in a way that's fresh and breaks down the stigma by making it something that's interesting for folks to access.
John Barnes is a gentle yet powerful leader who is executive director of Funders Concerned About AIDS, or FCAA. There, he leads a global organization whose members are the leaders in HIV philanthropy worldwide. Corporate funders and foundation funders here and in Europe have been moved by John to create partnerships and to commit to common strategies for addressing HIV. And that includes his leadership for creating the Southern HIV Impact Fund, a collaborative fund here at AIDS United that has given millions of dollars to the South and that has been supported by many leading funders. John's commitment and his leadership go way back to his deep community roots, where as an executive for Food and Friends and founding chair of the Delaware HIV Consortium, he did his work, and he did it for all of us, and his work has continued for 16 years of service at FCAA, and those years come to an end next year when John retires. We should all appreciate John Barnes, and tonight we present him with AIDS United's Appreciation Award.
I would like to thank AIDS United for this honor and to share my deep sense of humility in being counted among the other honorees. AIDS United and the National AIDS Fund before the merger have played a critical role in moving resources to most impacted communities. We hold them up as an example at Funders Concerned About AIDS as a model of community-rooted funding. As a board member of AIDS Action Council, I've also been long aware of the critical advocacy role that the Council, and now AIDS United, has played in bringing together disparate voices among the HIV advocacy community to forge a national response. Over the 10 years since AIDS United's creation, Funders Concerned About AIDS has evolved from a monitor of the epidemic to a vital advocate for the philanthropic response. That evolution would not have been possible without the partnership of AIDS United.
Tori Cooper is a legend in the transgender community, and Tori Cooper is a legend in the HIV community. Tori is Director of Community Engagement for the Transgender Justice Initiative at the Human Rights Campaign, or HRC. She should be director because she knows community engagement like nobody else. And she was the executive director and founder of Advocates for Better Care Atlanta. And she's been a trainer, a speaker, an advocate, an author, and leader for years for the trans community, and especially for Black trans people in their fight for dignity and their fight against HIV. And Tori comes running whenever AIDS United asks her. She's been on more grant reviews than we deserve and more panels and webinars than we should have ever asked for. But we've always welcomed having AU be a platform for her story and insights and for her advocacy and her message. Tori, we appreciate you so much. And tonight we are proud to honor you.
Thank you so much, Jesse Mylan and the entire AIDS United team for this wonderful award. It is very, very humbling. Those of us who do this work, we don't seek recognition. We simply do the work because it's the right thing to do. And it validates us. It validates me when you are recognized and seen for simply doing the right thing. I promise this is fuel that's going to empower me and empower others to continue to do the right thing. And I thank you very, very much.
Guillermo Chacon is the man so many of us think of first when we know a Latina brother or sister needs to be at the table, and rightly so. As the longtime executive director of the Latino Commission on AIDS, Guillermo's leadership for his community is trailblazing and enduring. The Latino Commission on AIDS is an essential member of AIDS United's Public Policy Council, but Guillermo is personally an essential partner in all that we do. How can I help? What do you need? We've heard those words from Guillermo hundreds of times, but he always ends that question with, my brother, my sister. How can I help, my brother? What do you need, my sister? He's been leading for his Latina brothers and sisters to end this epidemic, and AIDS United could not do our work without him. We appreciate you so much, Guillermo, and we honor you with our Appreciation Award tonight.
Hello, this is Guillermo Chacon. I work for Latino Commission on AIDS, and I'm so proud to join you today in this special occasion, 10th anniversary of AIDS United, who their dedication and commitment to respond to the impact of HIV in the United States and the territories, and Puerto Rico in particular, is very meaningful. I'm honored to be part of the 10 individuals being recognized tonight, but I'm humbled to receive this recognition, especially coming on this special occasion. AIDS United, I wish you 10 more years, and more than that, we need you to end the HIV epidemic. Together, we will be able to accomplish that goal. Enjoy the evening, and please remember 40 years of this pandemic require our action to end it. Thank you.
Benita Reyes will tell you right off the bat that she is a woman living and thriving and aging with HIV. She's also a mother, a lawyer, and a fearless HIV advocate. No wonder Benita Reyes is the co-executive director of the Positive Women's Network, or PWN. She represents PWN on our Public Policy Council, but she represents more the possibilities of what women living with HIV can do and can be. And she inspires cisgender men and transgender people too, because Benita always embodies the advocacy that no one is okay until we are all okay. That's Benita's central message, and that's how she lives, and that's the voice of her advocacy. She's strong as an advocate, and we've counted on Benita for AIDS Watch and trainings and grant review committees and Hill visits to bring that message, and she never says no. If anyone deserves our appreciation, it is Benita Reyes. Benita, this AIDS United Appreciation Award is for you.
Hey folks, it's Benita. I'm the co-executive director with the Positive Women's Network. I am really honored to accept this award, and I do so on behalf of a whole lot of other folks who throw down with me every day and make my work possible. I'm incredibly privileged to do this work with PWN members and an amazing staff who make me look way better than I would normally and who make it possible to do what I do. Thank you, AIDS United, and congratulations on your 10 years. Y'all gave me my first start in this work in 2014, and I'm incredibly grateful. So thank you all. Thank you, and peace out, folks. I appreciate y'all.
Emmy and Tony Award winner Judith Light has been an advocate in the fight against HIV for decades. She's played many roles connected to our movement, including on the TV show Transparent, and her memorable role as Ryan's mother in the TV movie, The Ryan White Story. Across her career, Judith has embodied and exemplified what support for our people should be. I met Judith years ago when we served together on the CDC's Business and Labor Response to AIDS Board. She helped lead how the private sector should step up to address HIV, not only with policies within their organizations, but by bringing resources to the very communities where their businesses and union members live. Her testimonies and advocacy have touched Congress members and corporate executives, not to mention scores of federal and state and local leaders. And she's touched the hearts of millions of us along the way by using her star power to raise awareness for our rights and our needs. I'm so glad we get to publicly thank you tonight, Judith. Judith, AIDS United is grateful for your personal mission in this fight. And tonight we give you our AIDS United Appreciation Award.
Thank you, Jesse, for your very kind words and for this extraordinary honor. The past 2 years have been difficult ones for so many here in the United States and around the world. Throughout these challenging times, I've looked at the strength and vulnerability of not only the people directly affected by the COVID-19 virus, but also those who have been there to support: the doctors, the nurses, the caretakers, the family members, the friends, and so many more. It has brought me back to the 1980s at the height of another pandemic, where we were losing so many in our country and around the globe. And at that time, it was the AIDS pandemic. One of the many things that I've learned on the journey in relation to HIV and AIDS is that HIV and AIDS affects a mosaic of communities, many marginalized, each with their own struggles. Now, whether it's a result of stigma or poverty or lack of access to healthcare or other reasons, there is no cookie-cutter answer to the question, who is affected by HIV and AIDS? At AIDS United, you recognize the challenges that need to be addressed by each individual community, and I am so impressed by your 360-degree approach that blankets local communities, propping up the most marginalized and shaping policy through advocacy. You have awarded thousands of grants in all states and territories, totaling over $120 million during your history. In addition, you have leveraged more than $184 million in additional investments to support syringe access, availability for care, HIV education and prevention, and much more as part of your powerful work. Now, I first learned about AIDS United from several of Elizabeth Taylor's grandchildren when I moderated a panel where we spoke of how they are continuing their grandmother's work on HIV and AIDS. And I was so impacted and impressed by their knowledge, and they credit AIDS Watch, which is managed each year by AIDS United. While I humbly accept this honor alongside these 9 extraordinary leaders in the movement on this 33rd World AIDS Day, I also wholeheartedly want to congratulate all of you at AIDS United on your 10th anniversary. Your achievements over the last decade are wide-reaching and powerfully impactful. May your work continue to be supported. Your unending service is a potent demonstration and inspiration to myself and to so many others, just as the LGBTQIA+ community was in the early days of the AIDS pandemic. I am honored and, as I said, humbled by your kindness and your generosity, as well as all you do. You have made a huge difference in so many lives, including mine, and I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart.
Wow, Judith Light, what a fantastic, talk about a legend and a fantastic light in our community for years and years. Judith Light mentioned that she had learned about AIDS United from Elizabeth Taylor's grandchildren who have been going to AIDS Watch. I've been going with them and learning all of the different ways that we can help today in today's age of prevention and treatment. And AIDS United is such a fantastic organization. And Miss Taylor's legacy still lives on. And as an ambassador for Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, one thing I'm consistently inspired by is all the work that Miss Elizabeth Taylor has done for HIV and AIDS. And it's just such an example of what one person could do. And just imagine what you at home could do. And it's so great to have you here. And I want to say congratulations again to all of our community advocate honorees. Your service to our community is truly exemplary. And thank you so much. But now, we're going to turn again to Jill and Ferdy, who are ready to taste our 3rd set of wine and cheeses.
We're going to France. We're finally going to France, the Mecca of wine, and probably the most important wine region in the world. I was mentioning that Chianti was one of the oldest, but when it comes to red wine, Bordeaux is probably the most important wine region, because some of the most sought after, some of the most culty kind of wines, some of the most expensive, and some of the most long-lasting wines come from Bordeaux. And the reason why is that in Bordeaux, winemaking is almost like cooking. I always like to think of a Bordeaux winemaker as a chef. So they have vineyards planted to several red wine grapes. And every year they pick, okay, the Cabernet this year was particularly supple and juicy. So I'm going to cut through that juiciness with a little bit of greenness that comes from the Cabernet Franc and maybe some floral notes from the Merlot. So they make the best wine every year by blending different grapes. So when you drink a Bordeaux, you know that even if it comes from your next door neighbor, every year the wine is not going to be the same because it's your own unique recipe. You want to express the best of the year, the best of the vintage. So I'm always excited to taste a Bordeaux because it's a labor of love. You know exactly what the winemaker wants you to taste out of his vineyard for the year. So this is called Baron de l'Estac, and it's mostly Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, the two most planted grapes in the world. And these two grapes are very complementary to each other because one adds floral notes, one adds fruit notes. They both have this like green bell pepperish kind of flavor, and the savoriness. It's always a very round and complete wine. And I think that it pairs really well with a blue. And Jill is going to tell us all about what I'm going to dare to say the most representative of her cheeses, but I think it pairs really well because blue is it's on a saltier side. So when you have a tart red wine and a wine on a sweeter side, especially, you balance the saltiness with the tartness and richness of the fruit, and then there's enough acid to cut through the fat, and then some tannins to help you chewing. So I think that this is a match made in heaven. And I'm excited to hear what Jill has to say. And I invite all of you to pay attention to the story of our blue came out to be, because it is a special cheese for Point Reyes, and we're always happy to hear the story.
Oh, thanks, Bertie. So Point Reyes Original Blue. Many of you probably, if you've heard of our company, this is the cheese that you associate with us. It's often just called Point Reyes Blue Cheese, and chefs across the US have been very kind to us to usually always make sure that the name of the cheese is printed on menus. And you know, it's full flavored, it's really creamy. It's actually made in the style of a traditional Roquefort. So we really looked to the French. There were a couple of other cow's milk French blues that we also looked at. Saint-Agur, Bleu de Verne, Fromdenberg, these classic, very creamy styled blue cheeses that just deliver on the blue cheese experience that customers are looking for when they want just those traditional classic flavors. You know, they want the blue cheese pungency, you know, that punch, that a flavor that, you know, as we say, can last, you know, miles down the road, is great for cooking, great for making, you know, blue cheese dips and dressings and melting onto a burger or a steak. We really wanted just that very classic blue cheese experience. So when we launched our company back in 2000, we decided to tackle the obstacle that there was very little high quality classic handcrafted blue cheese being made in the US at the time. And so we went for that, you know, that specific niche. There was also no blue cheese being made in the state of California. And so we thought, okay, we've got this great quality milk coming from the herd of our own dairy farm, from our own dairy animals on our farm in Point Reyes. We've spent so much time, you know, making sure that the quality of the milk is pristine. And we want to put it into a cheese that can really, you know, showcase that milk flavor, but yet be a cheese that people want to cook with, want to snack with, and has its own kind of unique, you know, customer identity. And so blue cheese was the answer. And we took a big gamble because I know there are some folks out there that say, I don't like stinky cheese, you know, but we said, no, we're going to convert everyone. So, and I think because of our sweet, high quality milk, because of the fact that the blue mold pungency, the flavor doesn't overpower the milky notes. And it's so creamy. I mean, you can spread this on a baguette like butter. That it was really the reason for our company's success 21 years later. It is still our flagship cheese, and there is nothing that I like it more than paired with a Bordeaux. I love that, like you said, that roundedness of kind of the saltiness, the creaminess of the cheese, that level of blue mold pungency coming through. You've got that peppery finish in the cheese. You've got the peppery finish in the wine, and I just think it's a perfect combination. And for those of you that might be a little blue cheese averse, add something sweet to the pairing, you know, a drizzle of honey or maybe a dried apricot or fig. You can definitely kind of tame the blue mold, you know, stinkiness a little bit, but have it still work beautifully with this wine.
Sorry, you caught me sipping. I'm clearly enjoying my wine. How are y'all at home liking your wine and cheese? Let us know in the chat box. Just drop some comments there. It's all about the conversation and gathering tonight. We're having some good conversation around wine and cheese and AIDS United. We have all the scientific tools to end the HIV epidemic. What we lack is the political will to invest in these interventions. AIDS United's third pillar of work seeks to change that through advocacy. That includes educating our elected officials about HIV and pushing them to prioritize investments in HIV and public health infrastructure. Let's hear more about the public policy work of AIDS United.
AIDS United manages the nation's longest-standing coalition of advocates addressing federal policy to end this epidemic. We work in tandem with local communities and impacted populations to better understand and develop policies that will support those communities and lead to an end of the HIV epidemic.
I think people often fail to realize that the HIV epidemic is still ongoing. Some people attribute it to the advances in healthcare treatment. However, those advances are only good if everybody can access them, not just people with good health insurance, not just people who have the stability in their lives like housing and employment. If we want to end the epidemic in this decade that just started, it is essential that we see it in all the ways that it impacts. And so we are asking out of the administration and Congress to see funding for certain change programs, pass the Equality Act and protect LGBTQ people from discrimination, expand federal solutions that close the Medicaid gap for all the people that are left uninsured, and the healthcare reform that is needed to ensure that everybody has access to healthcare. And we desperately need vigilant monitoring and an end to discrimination against all people living with HIV.
AIDS Watch is the nation's largest constituent-based HIV advocacy event. There's quite simply nothing else like it. Centering the experiences of people living with and vulnerable to HIV is the only way that we'll have the knowledge that we need to end the HIV epidemic. At AIDS Watch, people living with HIV have that space to speak truth to power about the policies that are impacting their lives. Policymakers have to know the real-world impacts of the legislation that they create. Structural changes to our nation's housing and healthcare systems are absolutely critical. AIDS Watch brings the voices of advocates directly into these halls of power, and it's vital that people living with HIV are meaningfully leading these calls to our legislators.
In the early days of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, a set of community-based organizations gathered together and AIDS United's Public Policy Council was eventually formed.
The Public Policy Council brings together organizations from across the United States to advocate for people living with or vulnerable to HIV and the organizations that serve them. The PPC operates as a standing committee of the AIDS United Board of Directors and helps inform policy priorities for the organization. They are largely focused on HIV prevention, access to care, community mobilization, molecular HIV surveillance, and the Racial Justice Index.
The work is critical to the field because as a collective, unified voice, when the Public Policy Council takes an action or makes a request of the federal government, they listen. As a unified voice, we bring to bear the power of all of our communities for collective change.
She will be the first to tell you that she came to DC to address HIV, and Congress and our nation have never been the same. 2 years ago, when AIDS United honored Dr. Tony Fauci with our first AIDS United Appreciation Award, Speaker Pelosi came to watch Tony be honored. Tonight, we all get to watch her being honored by AIDS United for her decades of advocacy and leadership in Congress and at home. Appropriations for HIV, programs like Ryan White and HOPWA, and America's commitment, both domestic and global, for HIV have Speaker Nancy Pelosi to thank. There is no doubt that she had our people in mind when the Affordable Care Act was crafted. There is no doubt that she had our people in mind when the House passed the Equality Act. There is no doubt that she carries us with her in every legislative fight she has, including now for infrastructure support for the public health workforce. We have Speaker Nancy Pelosi to thank for so much. And finally tonight, that is exactly what we must do. Speaker Pelosi, AIDS United is proud to present you with our Appreciation Award.
Hello. On behalf of the United States Congress, it's a privilege to join AIDS United as you gather to celebrate 10 remarkable years of leadership. Indeed, AIDS United has been an essential voice and a valued partner in the fight to send HIV/AIDS to the dustbin of history, connecting communities with health resources and helping lawmakers enact life-saving legislation. I'd like to extend a special thank you to your President and CEO, Jesse Milan, for inviting me to participate today and for bringing decades of expertise in healthcare and public policy, as well as a passion for justice, to this vital fight. It is a great honor to receive your Appreciation Award, which I gratefully and proudly accept on behalf of the House Democrats. I came to Congress 3 decades ago and called for urgent action to end the AIDS crisis in my first floor speech. And I'm proud that House Democrats have forged extraordinary progress. Alongside courageous partners like AIDS United, together we have established and replenished PEPFAR and the Global Fund to fight the epidemic around the world, ensured low-income survivors can afford safe, quality housing, created the Ryan White Care Initiative to ensure that those living with HIV and AIDS have access to affordable, quality, community-based care, and expanded access to health coverage and ended discrimination against pre-existing conditions within the historic Affordable Care Act. And Congress continues to build on these monumental steps with your help. Indeed, we're very grateful to your AIDS Watch initiative, bringing survivors and advocates from across the country to the hallowed halls of the Capitol. Personally, it has been deeply moving to meet with many of them on many occasions, hearing their powerful stories and inspiring calls to action. This World's AIDS Day, 40 years after the first case of this vicious virus emerged in our nation, remember the millions of beautiful souls stolen. We also honor the astonished resilience of those living with HIV and AIDS. So today and every day, let us recommit to our urgent work to fight the stigma, advance health equity, and finally achieve an AIDS-free generation. Thank you again for this special recognition, which I will proudly display in the Speaker's office. And thank you for your ongoing leadership to save lives and end this epidemic. Best wishes for a wonderful celebration.
That honor is well deserved, Speaker Pelosi. Congratulations and thank you. We're up to our final wine and cheese pairing. Wine, I'm whining. That's the only wine joke I have for you guys tonight.
Thank goodness.
Right? I'm not a comedian. I just want to take a moment to remind you that you can order more wine and cheese to support AIDS United. Order before December 31st, and the proceeds from your purchase will go to support AIDS United. Wine and cheese, they make a fabulous holiday gift. So click, click, click. Get over there and order your wine and cheese.
So perfect. Since we are in the holiday mood and the holiday season, let's drink the most celebratory of all wines. And I'm going to encourage you guys at home, especially if you're not tasting alongside with us these beautiful wines and cheeses, order until December 31st, and most of the proceeds will be given to AIDS United. So you're not only you're giving a cool gift, but you're also participating in a good cause. And we are right now tasting a sparkling wine, so the most celebratory of all wines. And we have a cava. So if you never had cava before, this is called Toro Loco cava. If you never had cava before, cava is the closest thing that you will ever get to champagne, which champagne is the elite of all sparkling wines. But cava is made in the exact same style, which means that the second fermentation, what gives the bubbles, is made in each bottle. So think about that. Thinking about labor intensive and how meticulous you have to be as a winemaker to grab a bottle of still wine, pour in yeast and sugar, crown it, and have that second fermentation happen in each bottle. Very meticulous, but what is the benefit of that? Is that when you smell a wine that's made in that technique, which is called traditional style of Champenois method, when you smell it, it smells like you walking into a French bakery shop and you smell brioche, croissants, fruit tarts, like beautiful French pastry, right? It's like so inviting. Why do we love it with cheese so much? Why do sommeliers call this the universal wine pairing is champagne or sparkling wine? Is because it's packed with citrus, acid, creaminess, and fruit, and sometimes a touch of sweetness. So it's perfection. Like a sparkling wine has all the elements. So when you bite into a cheese and then you drink the wine, then you taste a little bit of the wine, the bubbles and the acid, what they do is that they distribute the fat all over your tongue. So you amplify all those flavors. Like all of a sudden, like all those flavors are magically like popped and enhanced. And then because of the acid, they disappear. So it's a palate cleansing. So first it amplifies all the flavors and then it cleans them up from your palate. It's almost like a magic trick. So I always say, like, here's a trick for you at home. If you don't know what to pair, like if you cook something that's, let's say it's a recipe that you're not really familiar with and you didn't have time to research, like, oh, which wine should I pair with this? Buy a bottle of sparkling wine. It's the best. It's your best companion for a difficult pairing. And the reason for it is that sparkling wines, no matter what they're made from, they always have great acid, they always have great palate cleansing bubbles, and they always have a touch of sweetness because you have to pour yeast and sugar into the bottle. So there's always going to be a touch of sweetness, even when they're very dry. So that's, for me, that's the universal. So at home, please feel free to taste all the cheeses that we have had with this beautiful bubble. So I'm going to drink mine and then have Jill add to what I'm saying.
Well, you summed it up beautifully, Ferdy, as the sommelier here. I love that brioche bread note. You discussed it because with each and every cheese, you've got a perfect complement from that yeasty second fermentation that's complementing not only the flavors of the truffles in the toma truffle or the spiciness of the chichimi togarashi in the tomarashi, the butter notes in the classic toma, the Penicillium roqueforti, which is the blue mold bacteria in original blue. And then even with the traditional Gouda, you've got those crystallized proteins, those little crunchy flavor pops that explode, that kind of just add to this explosion of flavor that comes from the carbonation in the wine, that slight bit of acidity and slight bit of sweetness that just elevate the experience of the Gouda, just to a whole new level. So really, this is a universal wine style for cheese. We've said that forever. And some people out there say, I don't like sparkling wine. You know why? Because they typically are buying sparkling wines from whatever region that are too sweet. So if you end up, choosing a more drier version, and you try it with cheeses, it creates this lovely lift on your palate. And even if you're talking about a fresh goat cheese, or a sheep's milk cheese or a harder cheese, I bet you'll find that a really good quality sparkling, and I love this cava that you chose today, is just perfect. It's a perfect marriage with all of these cheese styles. So thank you for choosing it. It's fantastic.
Cheers.
Once again, thank you to Ferdy and Jill for leading us through that wonderful wine and cheese tasting. And thank you to Wine Insider and Point Reyes. Now, before we get to the final toast to AIDS United, we have a very special music guest. Just for you, my good friend Trey Pearson founded the Christian rock band Everyday Sunday in 1997. He left the band in 2014 and revealed that he's gay in 2016. Now, following the death of Larry Kramer in the midst of the 2020 Black Lives Matter demonstrations, Trey released 1984, an anthem to Pride's legacy of protest. Now, please continue to enjoy your wine and cheese, but make sure to save some wine for the final toast after the song. Now, please, here's Trey Pearson. Enjoy 1984.
forget what it's like to be with my friends at night. Rise up!
Oh my God.
Oh,
Trey?
how moving. Thank you so much, Trey Pearson, with your
Thank
song
you.
1984. I mean, what a perfect compliment to a wonderful evening. I mean, what
Absolutely.
pairs better with wine and cheese than an incredible, moving, powerful performance?
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Trey. AIDS United was formed in 2011 as a merger of AIDS Action and the National AIDS Fund. Each of those organizations have roots back to the earliest days of the HIV epidemic. The organization and its predecessors have a long history and a proven track record leading the fight to end the HIV epidemic in the United States.
In AIDS United's 10 years, it has changed lives. It has funded innovative grassroots programs. It has helped study what interventions will help people access care and stay in care. It has spent time with health departments, teaching them how to build trust with the communities most impacted by HIV. And most importantly, it has taught hundreds of people leadership skills, including myself, to do the grassroots work in their communities. It has met with members of Congress and administration officials and worked with both Democrats and Republicans to make sure all of those in power prioritize HIV.
And so we invite you to now raise a glass with us and toast the tremendous work that AIDS United has done and to their 10th anniversary. Congratulations, AIDS United, on reaching this milestone.
Cheers. Jesse and the entire AIDS United team, thank you so much for inviting Kimberly and I. And to all of you who support AIDS United, thank you. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you at AIDS Watch in the spring.
Congratulations once again to all of our honorees. You inspire us every single day with the work that you continue to do. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Danny and Kimberly for hosting tonight. Thank you to Joel Goldman, our committee chair. And thank you to Wine Insiders and to Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company, who are continuing to donate proceeds all the way through the end of the year. So Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, any celebration coming up can help benefit AIDS United. And lastly, I want you to know that AIDS United has accomplished a lot in the last 10 years, but that's because of the support and the leadership of all of you working in collaboration with us. And we are committed to ending this epidemic. And by 2030, we know we can do it with your support behind us. So one last toast to AIDS United, one last big thanks to all of you, and good night.